10 or 15 years ago, some fellow who used to be at Psychology Today wrote a book on emotional intelligence, and I think it was kind of a bestseller at the time and a fad. And I didn't know what it meant, but what I've decided it means is knowing what your emotions are, the names of the different feelings and what that refers to, so you can begin to share your own feelings with other people and also empathize with them and get a feel for what they're feeling.
Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new TEAM therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Whoa, Rhonda.
Hello, David, and hello to all of our listeners. This is the Feeling Good podcast. We welcome you from the United States, Canada, Mexico, all of Latin America, Europe, Asia, Africa, throughout the universe, throughout the galaxy. This is episode 425.
Does that include people in Ceylon?
Yes.
Okay.
And anyone, maybe there's some life on Mars. We're including them too. They probably know how to listen to us.
Yeah, and where did we had a great Ask David about a week ago from someone from a fairly remote place. Where was that? Do you remember? It was like in Asia, Bangladesh.
Oh, Bangladesh? That's not that remote. But yeah, somebody from Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me start by, today's going to be an Ask David episode. I'm going to start with an endorsement from Jose, which is a pseudonym. And he said, "Hi, Dr. Burns. Jose here saying hi. As always, I want to express my gratitude for everything you teach your listeners. Anxiety is a part of my life, and I think I've made peace with it by following your teachings. Thank you again for everything you do and teach, Jose."
Well, thank you, Jose. Again, we always appreciate these kind notes that you and so many others have sent, because we are trying to spread peace and joy and growth and learning to people, and that's our reward, is when somebody says, "Hey, I got it, it's working," and thank you. So thank you. We appreciate you too, Jose, although that's not your real name.
Yeah.
Whatever your real name is, we love you.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in with our first question, which is from Rose, who wakes up dreading the day and asks you what can she do. She writes, "Hi, David. I've been reading your book, Feeling Good, for help with my anxiety ever since my 100-year-old mother moved in with me. Your techniques are helping, but every morning I wake up anxious, dreading starting my day. Is there a technique to help me with this? I'm really working to change my thoughts from negative to more positive. Thanks to you. I look forward to hearing from you, Rose."
Well, that was really lovely, and how loving of you to have your 100-year-old mother move in with you. She's very, very lucky. But you say that you've been waking up, anxious and dreading the day, and maybe you have some negative feelings too about having to care for your mother, feeling burdened or frightened or whatever. But the answer to your question, I loved your question, Rose, because the answer is a very simple thing, and most people refuse to do it. And you wrote back to me and said that you were doing it. But what I recommend in my book, Feeling Good, and all of my books since, is just take a piece of paper and write down your negative thoughts on a piece of paper, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And once you see what you're telling yourself, you'll find out what it is you're upset about. And often you'll have a dream, and you'll remember a dream that triggers some of those bad feelings, but the dream might be related to whatever is bothering you. And once you write down your thoughts, you'll find out what's bothering you, and sometimes you see that those thoughts are distorted with all the 10 distortions you find in feeling good as well, all or nothing thinking and mind reading and fortune telling and self blame and things of that nature. So when you wrote back and told me you were actually doing that, it gave me great joy, because a lot of people refuse to do it because they think it's too simple. And if you write back to me again and let me know what thoughts you wrote down, I would love to see, and we might report them on a future podcast too.
Would you ever suggest to someone to have a stack of blank daily mood logs by their bed, and when they wake up, note their feelings and the thoughts that they came up on that form?
Well, you can do something like that too. The modern daily mood log is radically beyond what we had when I wrote Feeling Good. And there were no daily mood logs. We just took a piece of paper and put a line down the middle and put labeled the left-hand column negative thoughts and the right-hand column positive thoughts. And we wrote down the negative thoughts and found ways to challenge them. And that worked very well too. It just has become much more sophisticated with more techniques and so forth. But that's the essential thing. And if you're listening to this podcast and you sometimes get upset and you don't know what to do about it, but that's a good first step. Uh, I remember once, and I've mentioned this on a previous podcast, but Beck criticized me, and I got all upset when I was a psychiatric resident. And I refused to write down my negative thoughts for quite a few hours, thinking it would be a waste of time. And then I wrote them down, and I wrote down like, Dr. Beck criticized the way I handled a patient. So this shows that I'm, a worthless human being. I'm a bad person, and I have no skill in psychiatry. And they'll probably take away my medical license, and they'll get rid of. I'll have to leave the state, and I had all of these extremist things. And when I finally, forced myself to write them down and look at them, I thought, oh my God, this is really unrealistic. Here's all or nothing thinking and fortune telling and should statements and self blame and emotional reasoning. And I immediately found a way to challenge them, and whoop, my negative thoughts disappeared. My negative feelings disappeared. And when I saw the patient the next day, I said, I was criticized by my supervisor for the way I responded to you about your unpaid bill last week, and I've been feeling bad about it. I want to apologize and talk it over with you. And we had a great thing. And he said this was the greatest session ever.
Wow.
So, it's a simple thing to write down your negative thoughts, but it's important because when you don't, they go round and round in your head. That's what happened to me. And it's like a snake biting its tail. And one thought leads to the next, and you never get out of it. And all my patients, it was the same thing. So that's the gem for today. Uh,
Write your
write
thoughts
down
down.
your effing negative thoughts when you're upset. Take a
Yeah.
piece of paper and do it, dummy.
And you don't need a fancy technology, just a blank piece of paper, a lined piece of
Yeah,
paper, the back of an envelope. Just write down your negative thoughts.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Huge first step at any rate, and a great first step. Okay,
Okay. So
next.
our next question is also it's a pseudonym, and we named this person after Maggie Pierce on Grey's Anatomy, so we're going to call her Maggie.
Okay.
So, have you ever watched that TV show, David?
Nope, never once.
Okay. So, dear Dr. Burns, I want to begin by expressing my deep gratitude for your work, which has had a profound impact on my life. Your book, Feeling Good, the workbook, helped me overcome a very dark period of depression after being diagnosed with infertility. It truly transformed my mental health, and I continue to rely on your techniques, especially your list of cognitive distortions, which I often use to stay grounded. Your podcast has also been a great resource for me, and I've noticed recent episodes touching on the self and spirituality, which caught my attention in a special way. I felt compelled to share something personal with you. While your methods gave me the tools to change my thinking, I also found solace and strength through my faith. Prayer was an essential part of my healing process, and for me, it provided something beyond my own power. In moments when I felt I couldn't make it through on my own, The belief that there is a God I can turn to brought me peace and comfort. Both your work and my faith were crucial in my journey. Her question is about mother-daughter issues. I really need help in this area. So that she wrote, you know, there was a long back and forth between she and David, and then David wrote to her, and she gave 3 examples of difficulties that she faced in her relationships with her daughter. And shall we just go straight to those?
Yes, I'm starting on page 4 of the show notes.
Mm-hmm. So Maggie wrote about an interaction that she had with
And the,
her.
and the and what? How does she describe the mother?
She described her mother
As
as
passive aggressive
passive
criticism.
aggressive criticism, which leaves me feeling undermined.
I've always known her to be this way. She was never very affectionate, and I've gotten used to that. However, lately it seems like it's getting worse. She's hard of hearing, even with a hearing aid, and often adopts my way or the highway attitude, which makes conversations with her exhausting. Simple moments where I hope to share something exciting are often met with dismissive or critical remarks. And I thought this was a great one because I think an awful lot of our listeners right now have a friend or parent or someone who you know who tends to be negative and critical and complaining a great deal. And the question is, what's the most skillful way of relating to that person? And part of the answer is to look at your own role in the problem, and perhaps radically change the way you respond to that other person. And we can give 3 specific examples of that Maggie generously shared of interactions with her mother.
Okay. So she wrote, the first one was, I recently purchased tickets for a trip to Australia with my friends, and my mother's response was to ridicule my choice. Ridicule my choice. My mom said, Dear, I would never have thought of Australia as a destination. I would much rather fly to Italy or Spain, filled with culture, art, and great food. Sydney would be the last place I'd want to visit. So Maggie replied, Well, Mom, we've already been to those places, and we love a great adventure, and we're really excited by the outdoors.
Should we just comment on this one first?
Sure, yeah, let's just do this one. Let's do them each one at a time.
Well, I mean, this relates a little to last week's podcast. How do you respond to someone who complains, who's critical all the time, and kind of a downer? And there's two strategies you can use, but most people use 2 strategies of getting that are both wrong, getting defensive, and then that triggers more negative feelings in the person who's complaining and criticizing, or to cave in and just give in,
Or
and
withdraw.
yeah, to withdraw, yeah. And one thing you can ask yourself, uh, why does mom, did she say her mom lives with her or not?
Yes, her 100-year-old mother lives with her.
Oh, 100, yeah, yeah. That maybe what's motivating the mom, and just to speculate, maybe the mom wants to feel important, wants to feel loved, wants to feel she's still a mom who has something to give.
Yeah, maybe she's
Uh,
lonely and she wants to go on the trip. She wants to go on a trip.
yeah, that could be also. And so, from that point of view, you can use a combination of stroking, feeling empathy, and the disarming technique, and to say something like, Mom, that you always have so much wisdom. You've lived such a long life, and you've seen so much of the world, and I'm just lucky to have you as a mom. I just want you to know how much I love you and how much I've profited from having you as my mom. And then you put your arm around her and give her a hug and a kiss, and she'd probably just be super super happy with that.
Would that be caving in though? Because say it. She didn't say her feelings.
It
She didn't
could be
share her
wrongly
feelings.
confused with that. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
would that have been enough? Because she didn't share her feelings.
well, that's a decision you have to make. And if you want to go a more serious vein, you can try that as well and share your feelings. The one I gave is one that works really well.
Hmm.
Let me put it that way. But that's the other one that I had in mind. You want to try modeling that, Rhonda?
Okay.
Dear, I would have never thought of Australia as a destination. I would much rather fly to Italy or Spain. They're filled with culture and art and great food. Sydney would be the last place I'd want to visit.
Well, Mom, you're so right about Italy and Spain being full of culture and art, and I love the food there. And I just really appreciate that you've lived such a long life and you've been so many places in the world, and you have so much knowledge about the world and places to visit. And yeah, I'm always grateful when you share your opinions with me because I learned so much from you. I just want you to know how I'm feeling, how I'm taking this conversation. I'm feeling a little hurt, and I'm feeling a little, you know, kind of put down and a little irritated because what I want to do is just share my happiness with you about my plans. And I'm wondering if you're feeling a little lonely, or maybe if you're feeling a little disappointed that I'm not taking a trip with you. And if that's true, maybe when I come back from Australia, we could plan another trip to go to a place where you'd love to go. I know that's kind of
Okay,
problem solving, but what do you think?
what grade did you give yourself on that?
I'd give myself a B plus because I did go into problem solving.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it was a B plus. It was pretty close to an A, but um, yeah, I would say I'm feeling a little hurt and put down. And you said and angry. I wouldn't use the angry here with a more than 100-year-old mom. When I'm feeling a little hurt and put down, to me that's really sufficient.
Okay.
And I would say, especially because I love you so much, and I'm always hopeful to to get your compliments or to share my enthusiasm
Mm-hmm.
with you. And then you said maybe you're feeling that you wanted to go on the trip. I mean, that's kind of mind reading. And, if that comes up or something, I mean, you're filling so much in that isn't necessarily there. And we've got a lot to work with. But if you want to go on a trip with her somewhere sometime, and just say I'm feeling a little put down and hurt because I wanted to share my excitement with you, but I'm wondering, maybe would you have an interest in going on a trip one day to a place that you'd love to visit? We could go together or something like
Yeah.
that if you wanted to raise that issue. How
Yeah.
is that?
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So those are two different, radically different styles.
I do have a
And
question for you.
yeah.
Because
Hmm.
you say one of the feelings that therapists and people avoid all the time is anger. And yet
Yeah.
here you're saying that because she's over 100, it's sufficient to say hurt and put down, and you don't really need to bring up anger. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, because I think you said you're when you said you're hurt and put down, you've said a very strong statement.
Hmm.
And when you say and angry, I think you're using too big a dose. That's just my point of view.
Okay.
That if she's feeling lonely and unappreciated and wanting to feel important, that word might scare her off. And Jill and I have always said don't be too fast to jump in with your own anger if you're in a conflict with somebody. Sometimes you have to do a lot of good listening before they're ready to hear how you feel.
Hmm.
And maybe 5 or 10 minutes from now, you could share that in a cautious kind of. Sometimes I get a little hurt and angry too, Mom.
Hmm.
but I just think I'm feeling a little hurt and put down because I love you so much and was hoping that you'd share my excitement and a little bit. I think that's, to me, that's pretty strong.
So Maggie sent her mother a picture of a new piece of art that she was excited about. And her mother said, I like the one you had before. It matched the walls much better than this one. Why did you change it? Who's the artist? And Maggie said, well, we have to like it because it's the only wall in the house where it will fit. So we're just going to have to live with it.
Right. And why is this perhaps not going to work, Rhonda? What Maggie said.
Well, it's, she's defending herself, but she also feels kind of deflated.
Yeah. Hmm.
Why do you think it won't work?
Well, yeah, she's defending it. You see, she
She's
sees this
arguing.
as an adversarial relationship, and that will act as a self-fulfilling prophecy. And she's not considering why might the mom have said that? What might the mom's motives been?
Well, maybe the mom's motives were that she loved, she wanted she wanted her and her daughter and her daughter's family to have a warm, beautiful environment to live in, and that this picture detracted from the beauty that's already in the house.
That could be. I'm hearing it a little differently, although that certainly that's what the mother is saying. But is the mother saying I want to feel important and I want to feel loved and respected?
And I want to feel like my opinion matters too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to feel loved and respected, and I want to feel a part of this household.
Yeah, and so that again, I'll give you my standard version, and which maybe is falling a little short, but I would just say, Mom, you've got such a beautiful taste in art and color and design, and I just want you to know how much I love you and how lucky I am to have you as a mom, something like that. And it's not a terribly intricate response with all of the five secrets, but it's coming from a position of wanting to comfort and express some love to mom, who might appreciate that, as opposed to getting into an argument about the piece of art. Now you have taken the position that it might be better to go further and share our feelings as well. And if that's a beautiful point of view too, Rhonda. And if you want to model that one, that would be cool. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Well, yeah, let me try it.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get higher than a B plus. um, well, Mom, you've got really great taste. I love you and I feel really so lucky to have you a mom. I've always admired your fashion sense and the way you work with color, and I'm really glad that you feel comfortable sharing your opinions with me, and I want you to feel really comfortable in this house and that it's as much yours as it is mine, and um I'm wondering if you're feeling a little alienated from the house because, you've just moved in and we don't have a lot of your stuff in here. I'm feeling um, a little unsure of myself and unsure of how to make sure that you're comfortable, even with the art that we put on the wall. So I'm wondering, could you tell me more about what it's like for you to be here and have art on the wall that you don't like, and, moving into a place, even living with me, which is really awesome for me to live with you, but what's it like for you to live with me?
That was going using inquiry to go further into her feelings.
Hmm.
Which it's nice if you want to go in that direction. But I didn't hear you sharing your feelings. So I thought you
I
were that
didn't share
was,
my feelings.
and I
Yeah.
thought you were saying that's the important thing to do.
You know what, David? I honestly, I couldn't figure out what I was feeling. Am I feeling irritated? Am I agreeing with her? Do I
Well,
want her to be quiet and leave me alone?
um,
So I was a little
that's not a
confused.
feeling,
No, I know I know that's
Uh,
not a feeling.
the But how about mom? I feel lucky to have you as a mom, and you've got tremendous taste in art and interior decoration and things of that nature. And I just love you so much. but I have to confess that I was kind of excited about the art, and while your comments, your criticisms were very true, and thoughtful, and showed tremendous appreciation for art, that I'm feeling a little hurt and really feeling deflated, because I secretly hoped to share some excitement about the new piece of art, and that I just want to share that with you. I love you so much, but I'm hurting a little bit right at this moment. How is that?
That's why you're more powerful. So hurt and deflated. I think that's. It seems like that's the theme between the two of them, is that Maggie feels hurt.
Yeah, right. And so that would be something to share. That's not, I don't think, aggressive,
No,
and then giving the mom a chance to, just like what Jill did with her mom,
right.
last week that we talked
Yep.
about.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Okay,
uh,
I'm eager to try it. See if I can get an A the next time.
you want to try it on this number two, the makeup one?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll read the thing, and you can well, yeah, I'll read the thing, and then you can model a
Okay.
response. Number two, Maggie said, and we're doing them in a little different order, but this is the last one. Just as we were about to leave, Mom said, "Don't you think you're wearing too much makeup?" I replied, "I probably am. I didn't notice," and I rushed immediately to my room to remove it. What's your assessment of that? And then, Rhonda, and then what would be your suggested alternative response if you thought one was warranted?
So, what's my assessment of what her motives were for saying that?
Well, just your assessment of her response, Maggie's response.
Well, she caved in to her mother, and then
Right.
she rushed away, so she withdrew, and then responded by taking off her makeup.
Yeah.
So she gave in, which is in a way is is kind of passive,
Yeah.
and could come out
Yeah.
in other ways as aggressive.
So,
Yeah.
so, so that illustrates the two extremes that Maggie uses. And sometimes we go from one extreme to the other extreme, and neither one is satisfactory. Like one of Maggie's responses is to argue and defend herself, or cave in, give in.
Hmm.
And they're both not satisfactory. What would be an alternative response to this number two?
Well, again, I'm going to say, Mom, I love you so much, and I've always admired the way you can present yourself in the world. You're such a beautiful woman. You've always been a beautiful woman, and on the, and I appreciate that you can feel comfortable telling me whatever is on your mind. I love that part of our relationship, and I want you to
Is
know
that true, by the way?
no. No. It
Jill
might be
didn't.
if we have a better type of relationship, or
Yeah,
better type of kid.
right,
Could become that way.
right, right. But Jill wasn't suggesting that.
No, but I was overly stroking. Okay, I haven't gotten to the A yet. Okay. Um, well, I always admire what a beautiful woman you are, and you've presented yourself really well in the world, and I've learned so much about how to be a woman from you. And it is true I'm wearing a lot of makeup, and I kind of like it myself. And, Dean, my husband, likes it too. And honestly, Mom, I'm feeling a little hurt that you were so critical of me.
You
Because,
know that that you're so critical of
no.
me.
Okay, I'm
She's
feeling a little
blaming.
hurt. Period. I'm feeling a little hurt by those comments.
Well, by those comments is also a subtle
Okay.
blame.
I'm feeling a little hurt, Mom.
Um, well, the whine in your voice is a kind of aggressive.
Really? Do I sound like
Yeah.
I'm whining?
Yeah,
Well,
I would say,
that's hard.
I probably am, Mom, and
I probably am.
I love you to death. But right now, I kind of like the makeup. My husband likes it, and so I'm probably going to go with it today, even though you're probably right. But I want you to know that sometimes I feel a little bit hurt, and and I feel a little kind of put down, maybe, or just I feel kind of hurt, and that's hard for me because I do love you so much. Maybe that sucks.
Yeah, I'm writing down what you said. Gosh, I'm in the Maggie bank. This is really hard.
Well, I would just use my formula. I just say, "Mom, you're probably right, but I'm just going to go with it this time." And you're a beautiful woman. Your taste is elegant, and I just love you so much, and I feel so lucky to have you as a mom. I just think that would satisfy
That's just it.
mom's
Yep.
need to feel important and loved, and I think that's what a
But doesn't the
hundred.
mom want to say, but you didn't say anything about your makeup? But you didn't, I mean, won't that invite? I mean, it just feels like there's no conclusion to the conversation.
The conclusion is when you give your mom a hug and tell her that you love her, and that's what she's looking for. But sometimes people don't use these techniques because they think that they won't work, and then they do them improperly and they don't work. But I've done this, I would say, at least 100 times and taught to patients at least 100 times. And I'm not aware of it ever not working. I'm not aware of a parent ever not appreciating being loved by a child and told that they're important and stroked. Well, you don't have to. I'm not necessarily right. I'm just saying that that's my
I think
impression.
that's really awesome.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, that's.
I mean, I'm just thinking, like, let's say I mean, I'm really not that critical, but let's say my daughter-in-law, I don't have a daughter, but let's say, or let's pretend I have a daughter and she's wearing a ton of makeup and I say to her, gosh, you're wearing so much makeup. Why are you wearing so much makeup? You, blah, or whatever I say. And she goes, oh, I love you so much. I'm so grateful that you're my mother. And she gives me a hug and then she leaves. I would think, but what about the makeup?
Well, if the mother's saying it in such an angry voice as that, I would say, Mom, I love you so much, and you're a beautiful woman, and you're an expert in fashion and makeup and design, but I just want you to know that I'm hurting a lot right now,
Mm,
and sometimes when you criticize me, it hurts my feelings, and then I don't share it with you because I don't want you to feel hurt. But maybe by talking about this, it could bring us closer together, and that's what I love because that's what I want because I just love you so much.
mhm. I love that.
Okay, and
That's a
why?
triple A, triple plus.
Okay,
Because you are sharing with your mother that you love her and you are sharing your authentic self with her too.
yeah, right,
And I
right,
think that's what Jill did.
exactly,
And that's what I
exactly,
haven't been doing
right.
up till
Yeah.
now.
And one thing that we've noticed here is it's hard for both of us to get it right, and so it will be for you also, Maggie. And but if your heart's in the right place, you can give this a try, and then write to Rhonda or David or both of us and tell us what happened. And we love to for this to be a dialogue.
Yeah,
Uh,
cool.
Okay, let's go on to number three.
Yeah, thanks David
Simon.
for hanging in there with me.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's Simon and he writes, how can we deal with patients who are afraid of their feelings? Dear Dr. Burns, hi, my name is Simon. I'm a clinical psychologist from Chile. I'm sorry if my English is kind of broken. It isn't my first language. First of all, I want to tell you how grateful I am for your work and all the knowledge that you give to the general public for free. Of course, I also must praise the work of the entire team community working at the podcast, which I am the biggest fan from my country. I hope one day I can be a certified TEAM-CBT therapist in the future, but that would be a different story. I think the world needs more people with such a love for mental health, and I hope I can continue to listen to your content for more years to come. Me too. That was not in the letter. That's Rhonda saying me too. Today I wanted to ask you guys some questions related to feelings. I've applied some techniques to myself and my patients, and it's really mind-blowing noticing how effective they are. Nevertheless, I still have one patient who struggles with accepting or permitting himself to feel his feelings. He is grieving the loss of his father and he is very good convincing me that if he does feel his sadness or anxiety, as I suggested, he may go crazy and commit suicide. He reports good empathy from me, but I'm afraid that he may be too nice to criticize me. So, Dr. Burns, I ask for your opinion. How can we deal with patients who are afraid of their feelings? How can we build a solid relationship with our patients regarding the subject so they can finally vent these feelings? Thank you for all of the hard work, and have a great day. With love, Simon.
Okay. Do you want to take a shot at it, or you want me to take a shot at it,
I want you
Rhonda?
to take a shot at it. About
Okay.
feeling your feelings and identifying your feelings.
Yeah, I have two answers to that. What, Rhonda, you can tell me, what is the cause of all therapeutic failure?
When we
Or
try
say
to
95% of
When the
therapeutic
therapist
failure.
tries to help or rescue their patient.
Yeah. And this sounds, Simon, like this is your agenda rather than his agenda. If it was his agenda, then you could push for exposure and have him
But David, why do
expose
you
his.
think that? Why are you guessing that? That it's Simon's
Because
agenda?
the patient, well, the patient is resisting the therapist, right?
Oh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
And resistance is the cause of all failure, and all resistance comes from the therapist trying to promote something to the patient. In this case, his kind of narcissistic idea that all patients should be expressing their feelings, and that the mental illness comes from being afraid of your feelings, and mental health comes from sharing them. And that's been around for a long time, that idea, and it's never been shown to be true.
Mm.
But what is true is that if you develop a meaningful agenda and find out what the patient works help with, and melt away their resistance with, the many techniques we've developed, the therapy tends to go a lot better. And with that in mind, we have, I think, a therapist in my free Tuesday training group at Stanford. It's open to therapists around the world. So you could certainly, or anyone listening to this podcast who's a therapist or mental health professional, we'd be happy to have you join my Tuesday group, which meets West Coast time at 5 to 7 p.m. on Tuesdays every week. And Rhonda, and you have the Wednesday group, which is very similar, that meets Wednesday. What time is
From
that?
9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then Victoria Chicarel in Mexico City runs similar groups in Mexico City. And we'll put her contact information in the show notes.
Yeah, and both of ours, and who to contact if you want to join one of the groups to learn how to do that. Now, if it was the patient's agenda to share their feelings, but they have the fear that they're going to go crazy, then I would push hard for exposure and just say let's see if you can drive yourself crazy in today's group or in today's session, or let's share your feelings and see if you do in fact go crazy. And then that would be a really powerful and healing intervention for sure. Um, but I don't like to use powerful techniques until I'm certain the patient and I are on the same page with the same agenda.
I think what you're asking for is the therapist to have a lot of courage. You're asking the therapist to have courage, not just the patient, because the therapist has to have the courage to say to the patient, like, go ahead, see if, start talking about your feelings. See if you can feel as much as you possibly can. See if you can drive yourself crazy or drive yourself to commit suicide, and know that you can contain them. I mean,
Yeah, right. Well, you don't have to contain them. You can
well,
bottle them. You can put them in a container of some kind.
I mean, know that you can set a clear, a clear, safe boundary with them in that session.
Well, you don't need boundaries. You need therapeutic skill and courage to have them
Yeah.
confront their fear.
Yeah.
And to know that that their fears are not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, yeah.
Well, I think
You
we're
have
saying the
to be
same
willing
thing.
to go with your patient to the gates of hell with courage and strongly encourage them to go with you. But you can learn how to do that in our training groups. But there's no point in doing any of that. And that will backfire if you don't have a valid agenda with the patient.
Mm-hmm. And make sure that you're both working toward the same goal or end that your patient has chosen.
Yes, that's right. And this just smells like Simon's got something he's really sold on, and he understandably wants to sell his patients on how great it is to share your feelings and to grieve your grief. And although that sounds okay, it just sounds like Simon's agenda. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't sound like this necessarily this patient's agenda.
Right.
And it's easy to find that out if you use some of the TEAM-CBT techniques, which we won't go into in this particular podcast, but there they are. And we'll teach you for free if you just come to our groups, our training groups.
You're dangling the carrot. So Amanda asked you for help with a romantic relationship conflict. And she first starts off with some, very kind words. I would like to thank you, Dr. Burns, for your tremendous work and heart to help people who are suffering from depression and anxiety around the world. I found your book in 2021 through a YouTube video you did with Tom Bilyeu, and the rest was history. I went down to our local bookstore to get Feeling Good, and I was reading it everywhere I went. It saved my life and cured my anxiety. Every time I hit a roadblock, I go back to your book, Feeling Good, and try the techniques. I also love the podcasts as they have been very helpful for me. Shout out to Rhonda and Dr. Matt May too. I currently face an issue and would like to submit it as a question for Ask David. And she wrote about a really long email, so I'm just going to summarize that Amanda's in a committed relationship with someone that she's been in a relationship with for 8 years. She is facing issues with her boyfriend, which has caused some resentment between the two of them. And recently, a male friend pursued her and to be in a relationship with her, even though he knew she was in a relationship. And there's a lot of back and forth between Amanda and this male friend. She's attracted to him because he has qualities that she likes and that she finds lacking in herself. She also thinks he's not a good match for her because of his actions and behavior. And she's going back and forth. When this friend emails or texts her, she kind of says, she's kind of encouraging him. She declines to meet him on a one-to-one basis because she wants to protect her relationship. And then he withdraws. But then again, she'll initiate a meetup with him, and then he withdraws. And she wants to know if there's a way of communicating in a healthy way. And she's identifying that the way she and this second guy are communicating is not healthy. And I don't know exactly how else I would summarize what she said. She has a lot of negative thoughts about herself. And she has a lot of
She says it's not a healthy interaction or something that I want.
Yes. And she feels stuck in the dynamic because she ignores him for a period of time and then she goes back to the same communication and she feels stuck in that dynamic. She's been rereading the chapter in your book, Feeling Good on Love Addiction. And she's trying to build a relationship with herself so that she can be happy alone. But she would like some guidance from you.
Okay, so you want to take first shot at it, or you want me to take first shot?
Well, one of the things I would first suggest is that she listened to the podcast from the week we did last week, 423, when we talked with Jill about the no practice, and that she do a little no practice, decide what it is.
Now wait, stop just a second. That wasn't last week, so we don't want to confuse. And that was week before
that
last.
was 423. That was episode 423, 2 weeks ago. Yes, that came out on November 18th. Yeah, so I would suggest some no practice because she feels stuck in this rut. But you always are saying, what are we doing? How are we creating the problem we complain about? And I think it might be helpful if she took a look at that too. Like, what is her participation in the creation of the situation between her and both men?
Like she's kind of leading him on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. She's giving him mixed messages. And She needs to be clear about what she wants and do some no practice. That's the first thing I would say.
I think that's very valuable what you just said. The Also, she said that she's having conflicts with the fellow she's living with, I believe, right?
Yes.
And so, if that's something she could use, my book "Feeling Good Together,"
Mm-hmm.
purchase it, read it, do the written exercises in it, and learn the 5 secrets of effective communication to repair the relationship with her current boyfriend to make it deeper and more meaningful. But before any of this can happen, I think that you, Amanda, have to make a decision, because you're kind of playing these two men off against each other right now, and that might make you feel good, making you the center of attention, and makes you feel desired and maybe fulfilled a little bit on that step. But neither relationship is all that fulfilling to you right now. And if you go to my website, feelinggood.com, you can download the decision making tool on the bottom. It says it's an addiction tool that you can download a free chapter, unpublished chapter on habits and addictions. But the decision making tool is what you'll find 2 chapters, and one is on the decision making tool. And you can use the decision making tool to make a decision what you want to do about this fellow. And then once you've made your decision, you can work on sticking to it. But you have to make some kind of decision first, and you're just kind of floating in ambivalence. Another thing you might do is get my book, Intimate Connections. I don't think you said you were reading that one. And but I think that would be illuminating. That's on the whole thing of dating, and problems people get into dating, like which you're struggling with. And one of the things in there, that things that people have really loved, among many other things in the book Intimate Connections, is the table 25 things I'm looking for in an ideal mate. And that's a table you fill out, and you can list on the left the 25 things you're looking for in an ideal mate. Like number 1 might be availability, and number 2 might be someone with a particular look, or age and ethnicity might be one, and maybe shared interests, shared values, sense of humor. What are the 25 things? Or you can have 20 things if you prefer, but if it's 25 things, then you rate each. You could have multiple columns to rate different men, so you can rate both of these men on those 25 qualities from 0 to 4 on each of the 25 qualities, and then total up the score. And the total score can go from 0 to 100, and then it shows you how to interpret the score, and what would be someone who's worthy of 1 date, and someone who's worthy of 3 dates, and someone who's worthy of living together, and someone who's worthy of getting married immediately. And it's very helpful when you look at the actual qualities of the different people, and how they match off against each other. It can be quite illuminating. And I think that would cover pretty much all of my suggestions. And
I love how you described her as floating in ambivalence.
yeah,
That's a very poetic way of describing what's going on and giving her specific tasks to do. Like, I've
yeah,
used the 25 things I'm looking for in as ideal mate with a bunch of different clients, and it's so fantastic.
yeah. They really get you thinking, and specifically what you want. You have one life to live, and
Yeah.
what kind of things are you looking for in someone to love.
Yeah. And
Okay, so thank you for that,
okay, so
Rhonda.
here's Aaron. Aaron asked, why are feelings of depression and anxiety correlated? Why do they frequently go hand in hand? Hi, Dr. Burns. I'm rereading When Panic Attacks. This has led to a question. In the book, you mentioned that one theory about why people have both anxiety and depression is that they can't distinguish different kinds of emotions. Can you expand on this to help me feel better? Excuse me. Can you expand on this to help me better understand what this means? My interpretation now has me thinking that people are just saying that they're depressed and anxious because they don't understand what each word for the emotions mean. Thank you for your help. Aaron.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's a cool question, and there's something the term that came up 10 or 15 years ago. Some fellow who used to be at Psychology Today wrote a book on emotional intelligence, and I think it was kind of a bestseller at the time and a fad. And I didn't know what it meant, but what I've decided it means is knowing what your emotions are, the names of the different feelings and what that refers to, so you can begin to share your own feelings with other people and also empathize with them and get a feel for what they're feeling. And the Beck's theory of cognitive specificity is an awfully good starting place. That you know Aristotle and Beck and Albert Ellis and many people throughout history have asserted, and I think quite rightly, that all of our emotions come from thoughts. And so the thoughts that trigger depression are thoughts of loss. Each kind of feeling has a certain kind of thought pattern that triggers it, like the loss of a loved one through death, or the loss of a failure, and giving you the loss of hope, success, and maybe losing something that is central to your sense of self-esteem. And then anxiety would be caused by thoughts of danger, like if I get on that plane, I know it's going to crash, and thoughts of guilt, or feeling like you've violated your own moral value system and maybe hurt someone intentionally, someone you love. And hopelessness comes from feeling like things will never change. Anger results from the thought that someone's going to take advantage of you, or someone's trying to take advantage of you. And Beck explained it like this: anxiety is like being hanging from a cliff by your fingernails or fingertips, feeling like you're going to fall at any moment. And then depression, he said, is more like you've already fallen and you're lying broken, beyond repair, damaged, and mortally wounded on the rocks below. And I always thought that was such a dramatic and visual and excellent example of the difference between anxiety and depression. And I wrote an article and published in the top psychology research journal for clinical research on why are anxiety and depression correlated, a test of the tripartite theory. And there was a theory going around then that people, when you measure anxiety and you measure depression with tests, that they're always strongly correlated. And the theory was that that's because some people can't really tell the difference between depression and anxiety. They don't have emotional intelligence. They're like the Aboriginal people in Alaska, or even further north, the Inuit people, I believe, we talked about this recently on the show, I think, have, like 25 or 50 different words for snow, because there are so many different kinds of snow and they learn to recognize it, whereas we just call it snow. So we don't have like snow intelligence the way they would. And that was the idea, that people, they say I'm depressed, I'm anxious, and they don't know what the words mean, so they end up, being correlated on tests. And I did a statistical model to find out why they're correlated, and the model suggested that they're correlated because there's a common cause in the brain, an unknown common cause that activates both of them simultaneously. And that was a pretty clear conclusion. And then recently with our app, we were measuring 7 negative feelings, not only depression and anxiety, but guilt, shame, inadequacy, loneliness, hopelessness, anger, with very sensitive scales, and ask, how are you feeling in the here and now? And we found out that they're all highly intercorrelated. And the statistical modeling, again, indicated that there is some unknown common cause in the human psyche or the mind or the human brain, however you want to think about it, that activates them all simultaneously. And you probably know what I'm talking about if you think about times that you've been upset. You were probably feeling a lot of negative feelings at the same time. You felt down and depressed and unhappy. You might have felt anxious and worried and ashamed and inadequate and alone and or abandoned or lonely and hopeless or discouraged or resentful or angry, all at the same time. And that's what the statistical model says. There is something, and I call it the dark matter of the human mind. It's just like scientists have discovered this dark matter in the universe, and it accounts for 95% of the matter in the universe, but we can't see it, we can't feel it, we have no idea what it is or what its properties are, but physicists can prove that it exists. And that's the same that I've been able to prove that this dark matter thing, this common cause, exists, and we're with the app struggling studying to find out what it is. It might just be distorted negative thoughts that's probably the common cause, but I can't say for sure right now. But that's a neat question, and I hope the answer was helpful and illuminating to you, Aaron. I think it's very useful to know how to distinguish different emotions. It can help you with clinical work, and can help you get close to other people, because when they're upset, you can say, I wouldn't be surprised based on what you just told me if you're feeling pretty alone right now and lonely, and maybe some resentment and sadness and guilt and discouragement. And I'm wondering if I'm reading you accurately, and if you can tell me more about how you are feeling. And people really like that kind of statement, particularly if you're pretty good at intuiting how people are likely to be feeling. They feel cared about and understood, and it can really bring you much closer relationships with others.
Oh my God, that was a fantastic answer. I love the information that you gave about the research. That was really fascinating. And I hope you I hope you keep, I mean, I know you're going to continue on it and that it gets published somewhere so we could all read more about it. And it makes so much sense when you talk about depression has something to do with loss, and anxiety is more about anger, is more about danger. And so when people start talking to you about a loss they've experienced, then you can say, based on what you just told me, it sounds like you might be feeling anxious. The
You mean
example
if
that
they're
you,
in danger or something?
yeah, they're,
Yeah.
oh, depressed. Yeah, no. I meant that, if someone starts talking about the loss, then you can say, oh, gosh, I haven't been
Yeah.
doing very good on this podcast. And you say, gosh, I can imagine you might be feeling really sad and depressed. But
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Right.
connections
Exactly.
between yeah. Anyway, to me, that was really interesting, even though I'm not explaining it very well.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of Beck's best achievements. To tell you the truth, it was that theory of cognitive specificity. That was a big advance from the time of Epictetus. 2,000 years ago, they were saying the same thing, but Beck gave it a kind of an additional twist that was really helpful and really interesting.
Okay.
So. Another Ask David
Another
and
Ask
Rhonda.
David. I feel like I stumbled over lots of this episode, but everyone says they like it when I make mistakes. So I'm sure people really like
Yeah,
this podcast then.
that's why they love Rhonda and hate David so
No, that's not why
frequently.
they don't hate David.
And
No one hates David.
your vulnerability is so beautiful, and
And your
so
brilliance is just shining through. It was so interesting, everything that you said today.
thank
You've like
you.
really shined a light on so much.
Yeah, and so keep. Well, let's see. Do we have anything to announce? December 2nd. How about December 6th?
So let's announce your workshop on December 6th.
Yeah, with Jill, it's an all-day workshop entitled "I'm Not Good Enough," and it's only for shrinks, but it's going to be an awesome full-day workshop. You can come in person or online, so it's a hybrid conference, just like our intensive was this summer. The only difference, this will just be one day, but we're going to teach you a lot of techniques so you can get closer to doing what we do, which is bring about really rapid change in your patients. And if you'd like to attend, you go to the feelinggoodinstitute.com, www.feelinggoodinstitute.com, and then go for workshops for training for therapists, and you'll find the workshop description and the cost and the registration. And if you want to attend, especially in person, go and check it out as soon as possible, because there's only going to be room for 55 people in person. We have room for plenty online. So we hope to see you there, and hope you had a nice Thanksgiving. Is this any other like holy days coming up here prior to Christmas? I think like Rosh Hashanah
No, those are all done. No. So coming up in the end of December, there'll be Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa.
Oh yeah, Hanukkah. Right. When does Hanukkah start?
So Hanukkah actually starts on December 25th, Christmas Day.
Oh, every day it is?
No, it's
every
on
year?
the moon. No, it follows the moon, a lunar calendar, so it changes every year. And this year it just happens to fall on Christmas.
And is that the first day of Hanukkah or the last day?
That's the first day.
Oh, the first day. Oh, good to know. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. So, well, thanks, Rhonda. It's been we recorded 2 podcasts today, and I just always love working with you and hanging out with you.
I love working with you and hanging out with you too. It's such an honor for me to be here.
So keep sending us your comments, your questions. If you don't like something, and I generally every podcast I try to say something guaranteed to irritate somebody, because my thinking often is very different from some of my colleagues, and we're always happy to hear that too. And we love your kind, complimentary comments, and we appreciate your thoughtful criticisms too. We learn from you either way.